Hello, and welcome to another episode of Solipsist Watched. I'm your host, the Social Solipsist, and this week I watched The French Dispatch from 2021. I almost didn't make this video. This is a very hard film to talk about. And I'm not gonna bury the lead on this one. The reason it's hard to talk about is because it's almost perfect. The French Dispatch is an anthology film by Wes Anderson. Now, Wes Anderson is, to some people, a polarizing figure. Some people really don't like his films, don't care for him, and that's fine. If you don't like his other films, you're definitely not going to like this one. If you do, there's a pretty good chance you're really going to like this film. I actually didn't realize this was an anthology film until I got started watching it. As I've discussed before, I try to avoid any knowledge of anything I am interested in so that I can come into it with as clean a slate as possible. So after watching Four Rooms a couple of weeks ago, it was an interesting contrast in that sense. I'm not really going to touch on that too much because there's really no comparison. While I enjoyed four aspects of Four Rooms, this is a whole different ballgame. It's funny because in that video I said I couldn't think of very many anthology films, and now I have another one to add to the list. This film is incredible. It really is. Everything about it is incredible. I have a deep love for Wes Anderson's films, but they are not something you can watch casually. I suppose for some people, maybe you can, but I think not only will you not get the same thing out of it, but you may, I don't know. You have to engage with Wes Anderson's films. It's just sort of demanded of you. And that's not some snooty, holier than thou, artsy fartsy view of it. It's just, there's something about the way his direction engages with the viewer, even for something like Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is ostensibly a children's film, that drags you in a way that, or at least me, I won't speak for anyone else, drags me in a way that I think almost no other filmmaker does. There are others that have a similar sort of thing, but not to the full extent that Wes Anderson does. If you've seen Wes Anderson films and you are familiar with his name, you know what a Wes Anderson film looks like. And everything about this film is incredible, and it starts at the visuals. How do I even talk about this? There is so much variety in this film in terms of its visual direction, in the aspect ratios, in the films that are used, in the format that it's presented, in alternative media types that are spliced in here and there, and yet the artistic style is so beautifully consistent from shot to shot and scene to scene, that trying to talk about how well it blends together it's impossible to describe in words. This is not something that's unique to this film from him. Wes Anderson has a long history of doing incredible work with his cinematography. And this, I keep wanting to say something like this is his masterpiece, or the culmination of everything he's ever done before. But it's not. And I don't want to say that because it sounds like his final work or some sort of finale to his career. And I don't want to say that because I don't want to believe this is the best he can ever do. Not because it's insufficient, but because it's too good. And to talk about a living artist as though they have already hit their peak, or that you can't imagine anyone doing any better, seems evil almost. But everything in this film is just so impeccably designed and assembled and delivered that it's genuinely outside of my conception how to do it better. I'm not going to say this is the best film of all time or anything like that. It's a very niche film. It's maybe not his most niche film, but for a lot of reasons, it's going to be the most polarizing to people who are looking for something more traditional. It spends the most time in quiet moments with no dialogue or abstract visuals or all these other things. Structurally, it is very untraditional in the sense of it being an anthology film, but also the tone of various different sections of the film. And ultimately, there is no overarching plot in the most traditional sense. But there's the perfect amount, I think, to pull it all together into a cohesive whole. There is a beginning to end plot line that does tie everything together, but I think even what's more meaningful is I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. This movie exemplifies why I feel the way I feel about spoilers, where spoilers are not just about not telling you the plot beats or the events that happen. Spoilers are about giving somebody presumptions of what emotions they're going to have or how they ought to feel when viewing something. And however minor that may be, it seems wrong to me to do that to somebody. And this film is exactly that. There are very subtle thematic and emotional through lines in all of the stories that I think are deeply resonant for me in very personal ways, but I think are not aimed at anyone in particular or are universally understandable. And I don't want to say any more because I want everybody to experience this film. It really is an experience. I'm having a hard time talking about it. Because there's so much here. It's so densely packed and just intensely, stunningly beautiful. Like sublime is the word. And it just sort of defies discussion certainly with anyone who hasn't seen it, but even possibly with somebody who has. I don't know. There's a very short list of people I think I would be eager to discuss this with. and it's all, some of the ways it affects me are like I said, deeply emotional and personal and hard to qualify or even want to discuss with somebody, because you wouldn't want to sort of, in a way, taint the vision of it or taint your personal takeaway. But I'm starting to ramble, so I wanted to circle back and talk about my usual set of bullet points, even though you sort of already know the answers. While structurally it's unusual, and as an anthology, it may not appeal to everyone, I think the story and the individual stories within the anthology are all incredible. The dialogue, everything about the script is impeccable. This is written by, in addition, Wes Anderson directed it, but it's also written by Jason Schwartzman, Hugo Guinness, and Roman Coppola. And to have several writers, but a single individual director to form the cohesive style surrounding it, I think also gives it a lot of does a lot to avoid some of the pitfalls of something like Four Rooms, and to tie it all together both narratively and visually. The dialogue, like I said, is incredible, and it's delivered by a laundry list of truly talented actors of a variety of different generations. I'm not even going to bother to list them all here because there are too many, and anybody who I didn't list also deserves the same credit, because every performance is exactly what it needs to be. I don't know how it's possible for Wes Anderson to get these performances out of these people and not come out with a reputation as like some of the other, perfectionist auteurs, as like somebody who makes you do 100 takes or something like that. He has no reputation of the sort. So for all of these performances, I mean, obviously it's a credit to the actors themselves as well, that they get exactly what he needs or wants so quickly. But like, the performances are perfect. Every single one of them, no matter how small they are, it is hard to find flaw. And while I have only watched it once and only just now, and maybe I'll find something in, my 10th watch or something like that, it's hard to imagine. In addition to all the acting, I mean, the editing is, it's so precise. Obviously that goes hand in hand with really precise directorship and cinematography. But part of what makes Anderson's films hit as hard as they do is that they are edited without flaw. Everything is timed just as it feels like it naturally should be. Everything is framed just as it should be. Everything is lit just as it should be. And that, to that point, the sets and the costumes and the lighting and the color grading and everything that goes into the visual style, it just feels right. And I feel like I'm giving this such a thorough, oh, it's perfect, that like I feel bad about that. And don't get me wrong, I would absolutely, if there were things to pick at, I absolutely would. I hope you believe that. But I can't. I can't find anything that doesn't feel just as it should be. It's a truly stunning piece of work. And it will probably not get the recognition that it truly deserves. I don't think any of Wes Anderson's films really do, but especially this one, which is, coming out in a pandemic and was delayed already and is, niche and weird and art housey and just, I think, sort of artistically inaccessible to certain people. I don't think it'll ever get the credit it deserves. But if I can convince anybody who was on the fence or just curious, please watch it. Even right now, it didn't come out. I think it came out like 4 months ago or something, and it's $6 to rent on any platform, like any of the major digital rental services. They all seem to have it for $6. So if it interests you at all, if you've ever liked a Wes Anderson film, rent it and maybe buy it if you didn't already, because it's stunning. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I have a lot more to say. I can't say a lot more. It's just beautiful. And I don't particularly like top lists or rankings or numbered scores or anything like that. But this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, I think. Maybe I'll mellow on it eventually, but maybe not. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Solipsist Watched. Please let me know if you see the film and what you think. And I'll see you guys next time.